So what is generational wealth? What is this thing that we are going to talk about today?
Welcome back to our channel, Richard's Family Legacy, and we're here to document our journey on building our family legacy. I'm Jermaine Richards.
And I'm Camille Richards, and we are two siblings working together to establish our goals, and we're bringing it to you here every Sunday.
Today, we're going to be talking about generational wealth. That's an awesome topic. Generational wealth, Camille.
It's a pretty common topic. I feel like I've seen a lot of people talking about that over the
Mm-hmm.
last several weeks. Like it's something that's in the ecosystem. Everybody's talking about why or that they're going to leave generational wealth. They're building generational wealth. It's all over my timeline.
What do you think shifted? Because I have always heard the old folks, like I heard my um, grandparents say this: no one left anything for me. Why should I leave anything behind for anybody else? And, so I think the old stigma was everyone kind of fight for themselves. What do you think shifted? Why is it all over the timelines?
I think the world is seeing how other people are doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And, our grandparents, they did not know what was going on in the States at then. They don't know what was going on across the island, right? That communication was very limited. Now we have so many ways to know how other people are doing things that we're like, well, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this a part of what we are planning for the future? I think that's a part of it. And I think as also, you know, when our grandparents were coming up, they were trying to raise 13 children. They only had enough to make sure that they could get to the next week. They may not have had enough to get to, the next generation.
Yeah.
Where, we're in a completely different situation here.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think also too, education is playing a different role in terms of awareness. And I'll use a different example. Uh, when I was growing up, they started talking more about taking care of the planet, right? Like they started introducing green initiatives and those things in the schools. Now they're really pushing those green initiatives. Like Olivia doesn't want me to toss a gum out my car window, right? So it's like they're like really ramping it up, and I think it's making people care about what they're leaving behind, if that makes
Basically, they're
sense.
sicking their children on you.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. I can tell you the things I can't do. Like it's insane.
Like when I used to correct, it's like when I used to correct dad on how to say three and tree.
Yeah, the
That's
Jamaican
basic,
slang.
yeah, basically what that is. So what is generational wealth? What is this thing that we are going to talk about today?
Well, I mean, I think everyone kind of has their definition, first of all, what wealth is, but for our context, it's going to be that financial legacy that's passed on from one generation to a next, right? Um, that's how I would word it. You had a great document you're looking at, and it said it. Generational wealth is your financial legacy, and I think that sums it up. What we're trying to do here and what we want to talk about here today.
Absolutely. I mean, there's many things that our family can give us, values, experiences, memories. Um, and those are all things that you really pass down while you're living, right? Like you teach values while you're living, you show those memories. And while money isn't everything, having concrete things to say, I've saved this for you and I've built this for you, to have in my absence, I think that's, it's an amazing thing to say that, my parents had that forethought, right? Like
I think so.
I would be blessed. I would feel honored.
I think so. I think it's also one of the issues in today's world, going back to what I was saying, where each generation kind of says, well, no one did it for me. Why should I do it for you? That's kind of why the generation stays stagnant. I think that's why the middle class remains the middle class. You see, the poor, they're not passing anything on, right? They have nothing to pass on. The middle class, I think, stays the middle class because they all start from scratch. Every generation starts over and over. And if you
Mhm.
compare that to the wealthy, it's usually someone, not all the time, but it's usually someone in that family line that passed something on, then the next person took it and built it and passed something on. But that also creates another thing. When
Hold on.
families,
It's not all the time, but it's about 72% of the time.
you have your stats,
Yes.
72% of the time.
The
But
Federal Reserve estimates that 72% of the wealth held by the wealthiest 10% can be attributed to intergenerational transfers.
yeah, right. So it's someone that came and changed. And I didn't know that stat. Thank you. Someone that came and changed something, right? Now, the big problem it creates is how long does it last?
Right.
How long does it last? Um, does it last one generation, two generation, three generation, four generations, five generations? How long does it last?
That's a good question.
It's about three generations.
Hmm.
It's about three generations. So most people don't know their great grandparents. So by the time they pass away, anything that they built, it's gone.
Unless they have that picture against over the fireplace.
That picture above the fireplace. That's it. I'm working on the picture. I'm gonna say this is the picture I want you to use.
But yeah, absolutely. There, for some reason, generational wealth does not last usually beyond the fourth generation or the third generation. Um, so if that's the case, why are we talking about it, Jermaine? Why are we here trying to leave a legacy for something that is apparently going to dissipate?
It's a useless cause.
I mean, it seems so.
Yes,
We're
that's what they
wasting our
would have you
time.
think. I think because it shouldn't be that way.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be that way. I think that because it has been that way, it doesn't need to stay that way. And I think two people coming together can make a change. Um, I want to know, and this is coming from the parent side of me, right? I want to know that when I'm not here, Dylan and Olivia, they're taken care of. It's just the father side of me. Any parent would want that. And I think that's where the beginnings of any legacy, you care about what's being left behind, whether it's your kids, whether it's a cause, whether it's just the name, like what we want to do here, the name of the Richards, we want it to be known for something,
Or
right, when
resonate.
we're no longer here. So that's the legacy. That's why I care. What about you?
I'll be honest. I don't really have a reason to build generational wealth. I don't really have anyone to pass it down to. But I don't deny anything. I'm not making any declarations, but at some point I may have children that I will want to make sure are doing well and have something available for them, right? If I and when I depart this earth. So yeah, same kind of idea. But I'm just at a different starting point than you.
Yeah, and that's fine. There's um I would say nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with that. So let's continue on that. We're talking about why do the generational wealth have downfalls? What are the issues?
So I think you touched on one, that the mindset, and we had a long conversation about mindset, but that mindset that one didn't do for me, so why should I do for you? Which I think is a very dangerous mindset.
Hmm.
Um, then there is lifestyle creep, right? I mean, we talk about it in medicine often. When one thing about medicine and studying to become a doctor, you are very poor for a good portion of your younger years unless you have people helping you. So, you go through college 3, 4 years, you go through med school 4 years, and you have only the money that the government is giving you if you're taking loans. You don't have a whole lot of like extra cash. So then, and you're living like a med student. I mean, it's a thing, right? You're eating ramen, you're eating, takeout or whatever, and you're studying, you don't think about it. And then you graduate and you get into residency and you get your first paycheck, and it's maybe $1 or $2,000 every 2 weeks, and you're like, oh, I got some money. And you can afford to have, maybe you're not sharing an apartment now, you can afford your own apartment. You're like, oh, maybe I can buy a car. So you upgrade your car. So you upgrade your car, you buy, maybe instead of the Toyota, you're buying you have a used BMW, and you like upgrade your TV, right?
Mhm.
And you increase the amount of your paycheck that you're spending every week. And then you graduate residency and you get that big juicy attending paycheck. And then you're like, oh, I got some more money. Hmm, maybe it's time for a house. Let me buy a house. Like, oh, maybe I can buy a new car. Let me buy a new car. Like, oh, maybe I should be going on a vacation or two. Hey, let's go on some vacations. And all of a sudden now you're spending even more. And I think it's the same idea when it comes to generational wealth. And as you accumulate money and pass it down, you know, you are living a life, and you live a pretty good life with your kids, but those kids get used to that life, and then they get a windfall of money, and it's more money than maybe they realized that they had. You're like, mom and dad, they lived in a 2 bedroom house, but I think I can afford a 5 bedroom house. So I'm going to buy a 5 bedroom house. And mom and dad, they had one car, but we can afford 2 cars. So we're going to buy 2 cars. And they just you spend a little bit more, and then at the end of the day you don't have that to pass on to the next generation because you've spent it all. All right, it's less and less money each and each time, which
Yeah,
is which is how I explain
I'm sure
lifestyle creep.
there's a name for it. Um, there is a law in uh, is it physics? Something that goes along the line that if the space can be taken up, right? It will be taken up.
Hmm. It's
I'm
like
not sure if I'm
gas, right? Doesn't it
yeah,
have to do with
yeah,
gas?
it'll take up the entire area just because
Oh,
the area
listeners.
is there. I'm sure there's a law out there when it comes to money that
Mhm.
if you can earn it, there's something to take up spending it, or you'll find something to spend it on. So lifestyle creep. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mhm.
Lifestyle creep. You were talking about one off camera too, dilution, which we talked about a little bit, where if the family has 13, 14 kids like before, um, and
Mhm.
they had a life insurance policy, let's say for $250,000, it doesn't that it dilutes, right? By the time all the family members get their share, it dilutes. So there's
And the
nothing
tax
really,
person.
yeah, to pass on to the generation.
Yeah.
Um,
Doesn't have that impact.
yeah, there's no impact. They pay off a couple of credit cards and it's gone.
Hmm.
It's gone. Um, Another one is the financial literacy aspect. You
Yeah.
mentioned a family member or a child having a large windfall of money. If they're not equipped and they don't know how to manage that money, it's just a matter of time before that money disappears. Because, like you said,
Absolutely.
it goes on to the creep, right? It goes on to that how did you term
Mhm.
it? Lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle
So
creep.
yeah, they start increasing their lifestyle. And the funny thing is they buy depreciating things. They
Hmm.
buy things that cost money in terms of like it costs money to maintain it, right?
Right.
They don't buy anything that puts money into your pocket. I heard a very, very simple, I think it's from Robert Kiyosaki, don't quote me, but it's an oversimplified way of saying what an asset and a liability is. So the way he puts it is a liability is anything that takes money from your pocket. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. And to put it quite frankly, they buy lots of liabilities, just things that take money from your pocket. And that's a huge part of the financial literacy aspect, right?
Yeah. And then there's, I guess, like we were discussing is like the opportunity, right? Just not
Mm-hmm.
everybody has the opportunity to build generational wealth, which can be often seen in invisible minorities, right? Like Black and brown people and like in immigrants. They may not have that ability to do that because of outside forces, maybe because of inside ability. Sometimes it's just not they're not capable or not able. I wouldn't say capable, but not able.
Yeah, the cards didn't line up for whatever reason.
And
And
maybe we should flash back to the conversation we had, 30 minutes ago.
if they like and subscribe, I will definitely put it in. Like and subscribe. Um, Now, let's jump back to ways of building wealth. We said that generational wealth is your financial legacy. So let's look at some of the ways that people build wealth. Now, we took some notes here. One common way is investments, right? So
Mhm.
that's like your stocks, your bonds, different liquid investment vehicles that people do to amass a wealth over time. You say, let's say grandma, grandpa bought Apple stocks or Macintosh, what do you call it? Microsoft stocks way back when the IPO happened and,
Mhm.
he or she held on to it and it grew, 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 grew. And here we are in 2024 and, her X amount of stocks is now worth $8 or $9 million. He's built generational wealth that can
Mhm.
pass on, or maybe it's a dividend paying stock or something and it
I
just
wonder
pays out
if you,
dividends. You wondered what?
sorry, finish your statement. Yeah.
No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
I think I interrupted you though.
No, I was just saying maybe it's a stock that you don't have to withdraw from. It could be a stock that pays dividends and then they live off of the dividends, for the rest of their life kind of thing.
I was gonna say, I wonder if you could talk about generational wealth is as, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this, but it's almost like generational wealth is having, or the ability to build generational wealth is like having too much, or not too much, or having the amount of money that you cannot reasonably spend in one lifetime.
Yeah, I think so. I think that for it to be categorized in the wealth category, um, you shouldn't be able to run out of it.
Right.
There
I
should
mean,
be.
you could spend $9 million, right? But if you don't like specifically aim to spend it, if you live a reasonable lifestyle, you can't spend $1 million, right? And then all of what's rest gets passed down.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Anyways.
No, it's a good point because if it's not, if there aren't checks and balances in place to ensure the money doesn't run out, then it won't be generational.
Right.
Certainly won't be wealth.
Right.
And I think in other podcasts we have lined up, we're going to be talking about some of those vehicles, what people use or strategies people use to ensure that money doesn't run out. Because I think, yeah, I mean, I've heard of people. Look at Mike Tyson. The guy in his career earned over $400 million, and he spent everything,
Hmm.
right? And he's
On
now
what?
starting to build it back. But he went bankrupt at one point.
Hmm.
Buying Ferraris for everyone. I mean, I guess if you really want to spend it, you could.
if you, yeah, I mean, like, and I said, like, if you live within a reasonable lifestyle, I mean, I don't think buying Ferraris for everybody.
You don't think so? I mean, I wished I was around when
I
he
mean,
was
I'll
giving
take
them
a
away.
Ferrari. I don't, I
I'll
mean,
take
I'm a
one.
Jeep girl, but I'll take a Ferrari. It's the same thing with Elvis, right? Like I watched the Elvis documentary or docudrama that they put on, and that's what he was doing. He was buying properties for his mom. He was buying cars for everybody. Everybody had toys, you know,
Yeah,
and I bet he didn't have much of a wealth left over.
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Real estate is another one.
Hmm.
Real estate, people use real estate to build and hold wealth.
Yeah,
Um,
if it's done properly. I feel
yeah.
like sometimes real estate can really be a liability if it's not maintained and done properly.
Well, it better be done properly because that's our avenue.
That is our avenue. But
So
we're
we better
we're
do it.
we're
We better
talking
do it
about it
properly.
as doing it with an asset mindset. All right. It's not like we're buying a property to just sit there and pour money in it without it also giving us actual money back. Right.
Hmm.
And then there's business ownership.
Business ownership. Uh, that one is tricky as well
Mhm.
because you need to create a business that has systems in place that can operate without you, because otherwise you're just passing on another job, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you have a, let's say you have a restaurant and you're the chef, you do everything. If you pass that on to the next generation, what did you really pass on? You just passed on another job, right? Yes, it's an opportunity.
Mhm.
It's a job. But if you built, let's say, a McDonald's, for example, where it's running independently, now you've passed on a business, in my opinion, right? So I think business is a tricky one for me.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, if either it's a family business where like you're teaching them the skills and like running it, and then eventually, succession happens, etc.
Hmm.
Um, like for example, like dad's businesses, neither of us could run those businesses, right? Like we don't have the skill
We
set
don't we
to
don't
do
know
them.
what to do.
Yeah, we wouldn't know what to do. Um, but like, or at least his business in Canada. But like his business in Jamaica, we could potentially take over. And not that I would want to, but it wouldn't take, we
There's
wouldn't
systems
necessarily.
in place to run
Yeah,
that. So that's
exactly.
what I would call a business,
Mhm.
right? So there's systems in place and it doesn't fully require him to be there all the time.
All the
So
time. Yeah.
you just need to know and learn the systems.
Mhm.
Okay?
And
That's
then
uh that's another one.
And then there's just like your retirement accounts. So like in the States, we have 401ks and Roth retirement accounts through work, which are like those are very nice. I mean, I started contributing to mine when I was in residency, right? I wouldn't have been able to contribute it before. And like I used to look at this money leaving my check. I think it was like $700 every 2 weeks. And I'd be like, I should just take that money because I was living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm.
And I should just stop contributing this money to this account. And I was like, why am I sending $700 every month? I could really use that. And at the end, like, yes, it was seven. Like, I think I maybe contributed 20,000. But at the end, when I finished 5 years there, I had like $50,000, which for, 5 years, only contributing $700. I think it was $700 a month, a month. I was like, it was like a decent amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you have match and stuff like that. It's still worth it. Is it the only vehicle someone should be using? Absolutely not. But it is a pretty decent way of holding money
Yeah,
for the
it's
future.
good. It's good for holding money. Here in Canada, I know, and by the way, I have to give disclaimer, go talk to your tax advisor. This is not tax advice, just
Yeah,
opinion.
in
Um,
general.
yeah, general opinion. But here in Canada, we have the RRSP, right, which
Mhm.
is the Registered Retirement Savings Plan. And from one, like if it's from one spouse to another spouse, it'll transfer tax free. Challenge comes when you want to transfer it to the next generation. There's usually huge tax implications that fall around that. So for example, let's say it's $1 million
Mhm.
going to the next generation. that is going to show up as that child's income as $1 million in that 1 year.
Mhm.
So now they're taxed roughly at 53%, I think it is, on $1 million is the tax rate, right? So like
Or
half
would
of
they get inheritance tax, or
that's
they get
different. You're talking, there's
or the
something
capital
called,
gains tax?
no, there wouldn't be, they're taxed on the growth, but that's going to be on the estate portion.
Oh.
So when the estate is being settled for the person that passes away, right? The money that's there, any growth or anything like that, the principal is going to go through probate, a process called probate. So it's taxed on the total amount, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just talking now to transfer it when it goes to the next generation. It's crazy. Canada, it's highly, highly, highly taxed. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, Another one is life insurance, and that one can avoid the taxation. That one, there's no taxes. So it's a good way to pass wealth on to the next generation. By the way, a lot of the big wealthy individuals, that's what they use. They use life insurance to pass it on and keep it going, keep that generational wealth going.
Yeah. I actually didn't pay for life insurance until like a year ago.
Did you?
But I didn't have anyone to like pass it down to.
Mm.
Still don't have anybody
Yet.
yet. Maybe
Yeah,
one day. We'll see.
we'll see.
I was like, so
Okay, say it.
why are we having this discussion about generational wealth? Why is it important that as we are embarking on building a legacy that we think and contemplate what we're leaving to the next generation?
Basically, because of that, I think it's okay to think about it. I think based on our current situation, sometimes it's daunting or scary to think about the next generation or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 generations out, right? When the
Mhm.
problem at hand is so large. But it's okay to think about it. In fact, I would encourage everyone listening to this to think about building generational wealth, building a family legacy that can be passed on, building a legacy. It's the last name. It's the last name, man. People are gonna look us up like never before. This is the most documented generation in the history of the planet. Okay, people are gonna look us up. They're gonna say Uncle Jermaine, Auntie Camille. Like people are gonna look us up, right? They're gonna be able
Yeah.
to gain
Imagine
this.
12 generations down the road,
Yeah,
would be dead like 100 years ago. And they're like, oh, look at Auntie, look at my great, 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 great uncle. And
but it's gonna be well documented,
yes,
and that's part of the legacy.
I just know, the 12th generation, Camille Jr., we were thinking about you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We were thinking about you, right?
Yes.
We knew you were coming, so we planned and we prepared. And that's
Mhm.
what it's all about. That's why it's okay to have this conversation. And I think off camera we were saying that it's free to think about it. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost anything to think about it,
Yeah.
right? The dream is free. Now the hustle
Absolutely.
costs money, but the dream is free.
And it's
There's a
worth it.
Yeah, there's a price to the hustle, but the dream is free. So with that being said, thank you for joining us today. It was awesome. We had fun.
Absolutely. Please, if you liked this talk, feel free to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and join us next week, Sunday, for another conversation.
See you next Sunday.
Bye.